welcome to the Says Who podcast with Kat and Tip. We have a very exciting and special podcast for you today. And that's really the fact that Tip won't be joining us today. It's International Women's Day, so we've had a very good upgrade. And it is writer, editor, and fellow podcaster, Beth Axford.
That was a great introduction. Hello.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. How have you been?
Yeah, just busy. How was it March? Yeah. Every time someone asks me how I am, I'm like, it's March. When did it become March? I don't have any other response. But at least it's sunny today.
Absolutely. I know, it's gorgeous. My cat's been sunbathing on the windowsill all morning, so he's been having a great time.
Oh, yeah, I'm considering maybe going out and doing some sunbathing myself, because it's genuinely the first time it's been sunny for months.
Yeah, with no rain.
Just for us women, for International Women's Day weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. So today's special podcast is revolved around International Women's Day. We're going to have a nice little chit chat revolving the women of Doctor Who and touch on a bit of Beth Axford's career and her position as a woman in Doctor Who. Later followed by a wonderful video montage of a few people who want to share some of their memories and thoughts on the women of Doctor Who. So let's jump straight into it. So would you like to introduce yourself for the people who are listening today?
Oh God, yeah, sure. You made me sound very impressive.
You are impressive.
Thank you. That was very kind. My name's Beth. I am a writer for various Doctor Who outlets, for Doctor Who magazine, for Puffins, Doctor Who book range, various other places. If I can write about Doctor Who, I'll do it anywhere.
Yeah.
And also an editor for the Doctor Who book range as well. And I have a Doctor Who podcast called the Who Watch Podcast. Yeah. So I do everything really, as long as it's talking about Doctor Who.
When did you first get into Doctor Who?
I first got into Doctor Who, well, technically 2006. It's about to be my 20-year anniversary actually, which is insane to think about.
Yeah.
I'm going to try and make this really short because I feel like I've spoken about this a lot in recent times, but I caught a little bit of the end of Aliens of London on the TV. It was the scene where the Slovene pins someone, I can't remember who, but pins the guy up on the wall at the end of that, and I was like, whoa, what is that? And then I forgot about it. I don't think I watched any of the other episodes of that series, apart from, I think I caught the parting of the ways, and I was literally like mind blown. I was like, what is this show? Who is this? How is this man just transformed into another man? Like, what's going on?
That must have been a crazy first proper episode for you.
Yeah, and I was like, oh my God, like, who's this blonde girl? I love her. And then again, I kind of forgot about it, I think. My memory of it is really hazy, but I think the year afterwards, I had gone to a newsagent's with my mum after school, back when newsagents had every magazine under the sun. There was like 50 magazines to pick from. And my mum was like, on a rare day that it was a bit of a treat, she was like, pick a magazine, any magazine. And for some reason, I chose the 2006 Doctor Who sticker book, the one with Billy and David and I nearly said Matt then, Chris on the front. And I can't remember if I picked that because I remembered what I had seen, or if I just, like, I don't really know what attracted me to it. And then I sat and read that like cover to cover over and over, because it had descriptions of each of the episodes up until I think Rise of the Cybermen. So I was kind of like reading it over and over, and then I was like, okay, now I have to actually watch this show. So again, my memory is really hazy, but I think my first proper episode was School Reunion, which is kind of incredible place to start. And then then I was hooked basically, and just never stopped watching it, never stopped thinking about it. Never stopped.
No. So who would you say your biggest or any of your female role models from the show are?
God, that's such a big question. Verity Lambert, obviously. She comes to mind very quickly, just because I'm a very big fan of the First Doctor's era. And I'm watching all of classic Who from the beginning at the moment. We've just hit the third Doctor. There's something so incredible, especially now in the industry that I'm in and that you're getting into as well. It's, you know, you don't see people, women our age, under 30, getting to do the kind of thing that she did. She was the youngest
Absolutely.
at the BBC.
Yeah.
I think she was like 27 when she got...
27 when she was producing.
Yeah, she was the only woman, I believe, at the time doing it.
I think so.
Yeah. So that in itself is incredible. To just think that, and I mean, Doctor Who is a collaborate as a concept and as a show. Doctor Who is a collaboration of many people, and that's why I love it so much, because it belongs to everyone rather than one person. But there's something really important about having her be such an important part of the beginning of the show. And when you watch it, you can really feel that, and you can feel that, you know, half the cast are women, and all of her stories up until Verity leaves are so magical, diverse, and whimsical, and diverse and exciting. So she is massively important to me. I think another one would be Delia Derbyshire as well, especially because she was uncredited for her work until 2013. Like, that is just
insane.
To me, you know, as a writer, there are so little, I mean, maybe not so much anymore, but, you know, historically there are so little women who have written for Doctor Who, or people that have been a big part of Doctor Who. So to learn that she had been uncredited for that work for so long, and also there's a great documentary about her that came out in, I think, 2021, that kind of gave me a really like an insight into who she was, and I think she's really incredible. God, sorry, I'm giving you such a long answer.
No, you carry on.
And then there are tons of women that I kind of look up to. I think Billie Piper is a massive one for me, because I think if it wasn't for Rose, I wouldn't really be here. You know, I was a young girl, blonde girl from a council estate with a single mother called Jackie. I also got no A levels. Do you know what I mean? She really, like, she was so similar to me. And I think it was that time of Doctor Who was my first insight that the world was bigger than what I was experiencing. And that normal, and like, not normal, but I guess like people that had rough backgrounds like me could go on to do exciting things like Rose was doing.
Absolutely.
And then obviously Jodie. You can't not say Jodie.
Of course not.
Always makes me feel seen and included. I think she is just so incredible as an actress, and what she gave to that role and how much she cares about it. I think watching her era of Doctor Who makes me feel like, more than any other era, that I'm allowed to be here, that I'm allowed to be a part of Doctor Who, that it's for women as well, or anyone.
Absolutely.
There's so many, so many. Like Katie Manning's another one, Caroline Ford's another one. You know, do you know what I mean? There's so many.
Just everyone, isn't it?
All of them. But there are so many incredible women in Doctor Who. I'm gonna stop there though, so that I don't go on further.
No, that's fine. So starting with School Reunion, how was it for you having both Sarah Jane and Rose be two of your starting companions, really?
That's mad though, isn't it? Like to have that as your first proper story. There's something in the back of my mind that tells me I might have caught a bit of Tooth and Claw as well, but I don't really remember it as much. Again, it's just that thing of that episode kind of highlights how important female characters are in the context of the Doctor's world. And it's really interesting as well, because they're not perfect. They argue with each other, and Rose is a bit jealous, and I guess you could say, actually, some people could say maybe it's a bit misogynistic that they're fighting.
They were written in that way.
But actually, I think there's something kind of true about it, and it, you know, they then end up being friends. Like they start arguing, and I think that's really important to see. At a young age, really, to see that, like, you can be flawed as a not a female character, as a woman. You can be flawed as a woman, but also still be loved and have friends, and like you can be a bit that, like, Rose being jealous doesn't mean that she doesn't deserve to be friends with Sarah Jane, or doesn't deserve to be around the Doctor, or you know, Sarah Jane is a much older character, but she's still allowed to feel what she feels, you know. I think that's really important. I mean, I don't know about what you think about that episode, but it's also really nice to have two women of completely different ages as well in that story, and
absolutely
bridging the kind of what I guess I probably didn't know as a kid, but can certainly look back on now, is kind of bridging classic Who and new Who together in such a beautiful way. And I think it's a really strong place for a female fan to start, actually.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, Doctor Who is a lot more diverse and shows and represents women quite well, or very well, over the years anyway. I think it's important as a show that is kind of targeted towards children, having such different representations of women and having them present as complex characters, which is very close to our reality. I mean, we're just as complex as what men are. It's nice to see them be vulnerable and achieving and being strong and loud and showing, you know, that they didn't get on at the beginning. You can see the difference in like how the two companions were.
Yeah. Like they're completely different women.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's really cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you know what's really interesting is that I just read something that Tom Baker apparently said in the 80s. Kind of about this. Do you mind if I quickly read it to you?
Yeah, absolutely. Go for it.
So someone asked, I just saw this on Reddit because I'm a nerd.
Yeah.
Someone asked, what would you think of a female doctor? And he says, what would I think of a female doctor? Well, I think that would be a very, very good move indeed. I don't see why not. But it's very unlikely because you know as well as I do how cautious those people are. And if they did get a female doctor, they would direct it in such a way that it would be a caricature because they're not really adventurous about how to use women, as you notice. In most television, women are used, especially young women, are used in a very cliched way. That's because those fellows are cautious and a great number of them are not very imaginative. Also, of course, it comes back to that interesting point within the male psyche that, of course, very few men really like women, I think. It really makes me shudder at my acquaintances. I think very few men like women. Very few men admire women. They love them or they need them and they get married to them, but they don't like them. And I thought that was so interesting. I mean, I don't know if that's real, but I think that's really interesting that, you know, Rose and Sarah Jane in that story, and a lot of the women we've had in Doctor Who, like I think they are quite well rounded, and maybe not all of them, but it is more than just, you know, a caricature of a doctor's assistant.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's really interesting how we still have these, or the title of the companion roles, when really ever since day one they've matched the Doctor. Mm-hmm. They've been just as confident, just as brave, just as strong, with their morals and their feelings, and trying to do what's right and wrong and saving people. So really the companions, especially the women role, has always been just as centered and strong as the Doctor's role. So I think it's a bit, I'm glad that we've had Jodie as the 13th Doctor. I just think it should have come a lot sooner.
Yeah,
but I'm so grateful for what we managed to have, and hopefully we continue on and start to have more female doctors and kind of balance the gender roles a little bit.
Mm-hmm. And you think, like, me and you wouldn't surely be sitting here if there weren't women in Doctor Who that we found important and looked up to, you know?
No, absolutely.
So I think I've spent a lot of time in my life going back and forth on whether there's a lot of misogyny on Doctor Who, and there definitely is. That sometimes there is, but also there's a lot, and like you can look at anything, any like media and dissect it in that way. But there is also a lot to celebrate, I think. It could always be better, but there's also a lot to celebrate.
Absolutely. I mean, for what we've had previously, I mean, we do have so much strong female representation. And I mean, I started watching Doctor Who from Rose. I caught the back end of Rose, and immediately I was hooked and engaged. And Rose will always be a big part of my life.
Yeah.
She really just as a character, and it does sound really crazy to say, but she really did form and shape me as I grew up. And as I moved on with each female companion, I started to pick different personality traits and traits that I found really empowering and things that I looked up to and wanted to achieve and be from them. So it's really strong and important, especially as a young woman as you're growing up, to have this representation on your screen. And Doctor Who being at the primetime Saturday, it's brilliant.
Yeah,
very definitely. Good. So, as we're talking about that, what pushed you into co-creating the Time Ladies?
Yeah, I mean, the Time Ladies was a blog that I did. It feels like I did it for way longer than I did. I think I did it from 2017 to 2020-ish.
Yeah.
I made that about 6 months before Jodie was announced as the Doctor. Me and my friend Kez made that blog. And it was because I felt like there was nowhere online, or there was really not very much like places or space where I felt that women were writing about Doctor Who or talking about, like, there was a lot of people on Tumblr and Twitter and that kind of thing, but you know, and we had brilliant Emily Cook was doing her stuff at Doctor Who magazine. Like, one of the first things I did was interview her as well. So it wasn't that there was nowhere, but I just felt like it didn't exist. There was no Doctor Who blog for women, or I guess there was some stuff about, there was oh my god, an amazing Doctor Who podcast by, I think, 3 or 4 women. I cannot remember. I think it was called maybe the Verity podcast. So that definitely existed. So I'm not saying there was nothing, but there was nothing making the kind of content that I wanted to see. Or you know, we did kind of like lookbooks on how to dress like companions. We did pieces about like how women's bodies are represented in the show, and then we also just did reviews and opinion pieces, and like we kind of did stuff that I wasn't seeing anywhere, and that's what I wanted to do with that. And my friend Kez, I had seen her online, and she made a video about being a female Doctor Who fan, and it was really funny because she was like, this is the reality of it, you know. One of the things I remember is that she had gone into a shop to buy a TARDIS character option set, and it was for her boyfriend. But what was really kind of sad was that she went to buy it, and the man was like, oh, so this is for your boyfriend then, isn't it? And she was like, well, like, yeah,
why can't it be for me?
But I would also buy this for me. And it was things like that we kind of really bonded over. And then eventually I forced her to be my friend and do a blog with me. And then actually about 6 months into that, Jodie Whittaker was announced as the Doctor. So really it was the perfect time to be doing that, because we then got to do loads of cool, exciting things and be there for the launch of that. It was also really hard though. We got a lot of hate, and it made me a very angry person. And
why did you get a lot of hate?
There was a lot of just like people that didn't understand why we would want a space for women, or didn't understand the things that we were saying. So a lot of people, there were a lot of men that were like, what do you mean? There's no misogyny in Doctor Who. There's no sexism in Doctor Who. Doctor Who's always been great with representation of women, and like, there was no new, like, there was just a lot of everything we did. I mean, there's that I think this is the thing with any Doctor Who thing, is that like everybody gets hate, and a lot of my male friends have also had hate, but there was something quite different and intense about it. So kind of everything we did, we got hate for. Or people argued with us, or I think we then defended ourselves, and then we sort of probably became known for being like angry women. And I still to this day think people don't like me because of that. And I kind of wish I didn't. In a way, I wish I never defended us, or never said anything, or never was angry about things, because I think that's all, like, that the effect of that is almost like too detrimental. But also, we were just trying to do the right thing. We were just trying to be like, this is why this is important that we talk about this, or this is why this deserves to be spoken about, or whatever it was.
It's a good thing that you were strong and defended yourself, because I think if it was on the other foot and it was a group of male writers doing the same thing as what you're doing, or you were doing, I doubt it would have received the backlash and hate that you got. So it's good that you spoke out and voiced why everything that you were doing was important.
Yeah, there's a part of me that's like proud of myself for doing that, but I also do regret it in a way, because I think sometimes I was too angry and I let it really affect my mental health. Like, it made me I had to stop because it made me unwell. And I also saw that people weren't including us in things anymore. Like, we were definitely like, we don't want those angry feminists involved, kind of thing. And that's really difficult. That's really hard to take, because we only ever wanted to do something good. And,
absolutely.
You know, I still feel the effects of that now. There are people that I know will never hire me or want me involved in stuff because they think of me as like an angry feminist, and like that's fine. I can't really do anything about that, but it's really hard to explain like why we were angry or why we needed to talk about this stuff. And I probably wouldn't comment on anything like that now, because, you know, it didn't go well. But I think, like, if I was to do it again, I would do what we were doing, and I would just never respond to any hate. I would just continue.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean? I think the thing is that you end up fueling it, don't you, if you respond to it all the time.
And 9 times out of 10, they just want the reaction anyway.
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, there have been times where I'll say to someone like, oh, we've got a lot of hate for this, or I got a lot of hate for this, and then I would be like, you know, it's I still personally think that the hate that I would get for something would be different to the way like a man in my role would get hate for something. But a lot of men are still like, no, I get hate, it's just as bad as what you would get, which is true. A lot of men in Doctor Who, like Russell T Davies, gets hate all the time. Like, it exists, but it's still different. It's still like,
the fuel of the hatred is different.
And like the lack of acceptance and the misogyny is different, you know. And I don't think a lot of people realise they're doing it anyway, but it's really hard, but I'm still glad we did it. I'm still glad we made that blog and said the things we said, you know. Anyway, sorry, I've just been on a massive tangent.
No, that's okay. So do you think that now, obviously you don't write the Time Ladies blog anymore, do you take all of the drive and the kind of power that you were putting into that blog into your writing now? Do you write it into your stories?
Yes, I think so. I think that now I'm a freelancer, so I kind of have to make opportunities for myself and writing for myself, and it's difficult. I think sometimes I have to just ignore a lot and also carry on with a lot, even though I still struggle with kind of the same things that I was dealing with the Time Ladies. I guess I don't really know. Sometimes I think what I put into it is just like, I've put in like 20 years now, so I can't really stop. Do you know what I mean? Especially, I think next year, what year is it? 2026. Next year will be 10 years since we started the Time Ladies. So, you know, that's a decade of me learning to be a writer and building up a network of friends and contacts and all the things that I've done. So I think the main drive there is like, I need, like, it kind of has to be worth something, because I've put in all this effort, and like, obviously the passion is still there and the excitement that I initially had with the blog, but it's sort of like, once you've come this far, I'm like, I can't really stop. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, of course. So was it writing for the Time Ladies that inspired you to write in the first place, or were there any other influences that made you want to take writing as a career move for you?
Yeah, so that's a really good question, actually. The Time Ladies was the thing that, so I didn't really know what I was doing with my life. I was very much Rose Tyler, 19, working in a shop, that kind of vibe.
Yeah.
I didn't go to college, didn't go to university, didn't really have any prospects. And I think I don't really know how I got into it, but I knew somewhere in the back of my mind, I kind of just thought I wasn't good at anything and there's nothing, I would just be probably working in a shop for the rest of my life. But I think I'd written some things and posted them on Twitter, and then enjoyed it. And then I did a couple of things for Blog to Who in 2016. I think maybe some reviews and some bits like that. And I think when I started the blog, I suddenly had this like euphoric kind of, oh my God, like for the first time ever, I can see the point. Do you know what I mean? Like, I can, like, writing made me feel, I wasn't very good at it at all because I had no education and still don't. But I knew that it was like important to me, and it made me feel like I had a purpose in a way that I hadn't ever felt before. So like, even though I was kind of bad at it, you know, I sort of just had to, I was just like, I have to continue with this because I don't know anything else like this. I'd been a makeup artist as well, like in sort of 2017, 2018. And again, like I didn't feel like that about that either.
Yeah.
So I kind of knew I had to, and Doctor Who was the inspiration for that. You know, I probably wouldn't be a writer if it wasn't for Doctor Who. There's so much, it's such an easy thing for me to write about and has inspired me so much. And it's there's really no way I would, maybe in some universe, but in my mind there's really no way I wouldn't have, like, Doctor Who is the reason I got into that, you know. So it's massively important.
How did you get into writing for Doctor Who? What kind of influenced you, or who did you contact? Where did that kind of start?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think with the Time Ladies, because we had launched it just before Jodie's era started, we then, and because we were the only like UK based thing that was a Doctor Who space for women, everyone started getting in contact with us, like the BBC. Like when Jodie was announced, I think every radio station in the country called us and asked us to talk about it. So it was Emily Cook was doing a load of it because she was the only other woman. So Emily Cook was doing it for Doctor Who magazine and all that other stuff, and then me and Kez were doing all the other bits. But I ended up getting asked to write for like the Radio Times, and I think New Statesman was one of the first ones I wrote for, and loads of different websites. And that was when I was like, oh, I can actually do this as a thing. Like, this is a thing that people are asking me to do. And then I was like, oh, well, maybe I can pitch to other places because I've done this now. And it's like actually a massive amount of luck. Obviously, there was a lot of hard work that went into the blog to get it to that place.
Yeah, of course.
You know, that's when I was like, oh, okay, I can do this. Like, this is not just the blog. I can do this for places that will pay me or whatever. And for a long time, it was just non-fiction stuff. It was just opinion pieces and, you know, responses, reviews, that kind of thing. But I knew I wanted to write for Doctor Who magazine. That was always a dream of mine. And I knew there was something in the back of my mind that wanted to try writing stories, but I didn't think I was allowed. Like, I think because of my background and lack of education, I was just like, I can't write like that. Like, I can't write stories. Like, I would never be able to do that. So I'd start stories. I'd write stories and scenes and stuff and post on the Time Ladies. And I had like great feedback from people like Simon Gurrier and like loads of cool writers that I'd met. But I never finished a story ever because of the imposter syndrome probably, but also because I was trying to work a full-time job and like do life and everything.
It's hard to balance.
So I continued. I had a bit of a break from Doctor Who during 2020 and 2021. Like I sort of stopped doing the blog, stopped interacting with it, stopped watching it. It was like a full year off. And when I came back, I was like, right, I have to do this now. I know I'm not happy in the job that I'm doing. I'm like this, if I can't make this work now, then I'll give up, but I have to try one more time. I have to try, because I think I was so bogged down by the hate and like how bad it made my mental health and how like horrible it made me as a person. And I was like, I have to try again, and it has to be different this time. My relationship to Doctor Who has to change. And so I sort of went into 2022 and I was like, my goal for that year was to get a Doctor Who book deal, and I didn't really know how it was going to happen. I just was like, I was like, that's my goal for this year. And I had been doing like Doctor Who poetry and stuff. I did a project with my friend who was illustrating Doctor Who poems I was writing. So I pitched a book I did because I had contacts. Like I was friends with the Doctor Who brand manager at the time, and I knew the people at Puffin and Ebury because I'd met them at events and stuff. So had the right contacts, and I pitched this book I did. And we got a no from Ebury, who are the Doctor Who publisher that do the Target books, who are really brilliant, for various reasons, which was all fine. Like, obviously, you know,
This job comes with a lot of no's.
Yeah, there are
it?
honestly, the amount of I think people think like nobody ever sees how many no's you get in this career.
Yeah.
People say no to me all the time. So that was a no, and then I pitched it to the BBC Children's Puffin, and didn't hear anything back ever. So I was like, okay, well, I tried. And I felt really sad about it for a few months, but I was like, you know, this is how you do this career. Like, you have to keep going. You can't like just stop at the first hurdle. And then every day I was still like, it's going to happen. Like, I'm going to do it. And then out of the blue, like 2 months later, I got a DM on Twitter that was like, we're looking for, because I think I'd been writing a lot of Radio Times stuff. So I'd been putting articles out on the Radio Times, and I was still writing and stuff. And I got a DM from an editor at a publisher called Bonnier, and they were like, we're looking for a writer for a Doctor Who project. Like, can I email you?
Oh.
And I was like,
yes.
I was like, you don't have the Doctor Who license, so I don't understand how you're allowed to do this, but fine, you can email me.
Okay.
And she emailed me and she was like, we want to do a Doctor Who quiz book. Would you write it for us? And can you send a plan of what you would do if you were to write it for us? And I was like, yes. yes, obviously. So I sent them a plan, and they were like, great, we want you to do it. And I was like, whoa, this has come out of nowhere, like literally from and this is why I miss Twitter so much, because I got a lot of opportunities through Twitter and being able to post about my work. So I did an unofficial Doctor Who quiz book, and that came out at the end of 2022. And
I remember it coming out. I walked into Waterstones and it was displayed on the cabinet. Obviously I had no idea who you were.
That's
it was
so
displayed
cool.
in the cabinet, and I was like, oh, that's really cool. I got it. And then when we met and started chatting, I was just looking at my collection shelf one day and went, oh my God, Beth. I went and got it and was like, I've got your book. I was like, that's insane.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember when that came out. It's great.
Yeah, like I was working at a library in Piccadilly Circus, and there was we were on the back of the big Waterstones, and every time I walked in, the book was by the till. And I was like, still to this day, that was the most insane thing to ever happen to me, I think, because like it wasn't just the actual quiz questions I wrote like these little introductions to each chapter, and that felt like proper writing. And it was just like I got to the end of that year and I was like, oh, I did get a Doctor Who book deal. Like I did manage it, just not in the way I thought I would. Manifestation works, kids. So I was literally like, well, if I never do that again, I did that. That's incredible. And also it did really well for the publisher, like more, I think way better than any of the Doctor Who publishers had thought it would.
Anticipated,
Yeah. And I think that's just because the publisher were great at marketing it. They did a deal with the Works, so they did like a version of it in the Works for £4, which is so accessible to anyone, you know.
Yeah.
But then I got an email at the end of that year, like 4 days before Christmas, from Puffin, the BBC publisher who I'd pitched to, and the editor was like, oh, I've been thinking about your book pitch all year, but I haven't been able to get back to you for various reasons, but also I've seen your quiz book do really well, like should we have a meeting? And I was like,
oh yes.
So that was great, because I was like, okay, you know, the knock-on effect of doing that quiz book was obviously got me in touch with him. So I ended up having a few meetings with him, with my friend, for the book we pitched, and it just wasn't really, to be honest, that book was too expensive to make. Doctor Who doesn't make enough money for us to have made that book, essentially. But I'd gone to him, so we'd had so many meetings about ideas and stuff, and I think he was just like kind of impressed by like all of the things I had to say, which was really nice, because like, you know, I hadn't experienced a lot of that in kind of the Doctor Who world, like someone that was just like, oh, you're actually really good at this and you can do this. And then he was like, do you have any prose that I can read, because we might get you to do some prose stuff? And I was like I would love to, but I haven't, because I was too scared, like as I said earlier. But then I had surgery for like a diagnostic surgery that I needed to have, and I had 2 or 3 weeks off work, so I just wrote a story in that space of time. And obviously, like having time off work gave me the ability to do that.
The drive and the ability,
So I sent it to him, and he was like, "Great, love it. We want to publish it." I was like, what?
Imagine your first story that you've written and they were like, yeah, cool, we'll publish that.
Insane.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
And it's still, again, still my favourite thing I've ever done.
What one was that? So what was
So that was a story called Becky's Impossible Day, and it was a prequel to Rose. So it's set just before Rose, and it's set in a nail salon with a little creature that absorbs colour. Again, just like my favourite thing I've ever done. Because I don't know of another Doctor Who story set in a nail salon, and I feel like that's something that's really personal to me, you know. And that got published in that book, and then I ended up actually, because I was sort of like, do you have any other work? Because I needed to leave my job because I was like super unwell, and I was like, if I'm going to go freelance and do this prose for you, like, do you have other stuff? And he was like, okay, can you edit? And I was like, well, I've done a lot of editing in my marketing job, so like, yes, I'll try. And he sent me a tester, and he was like, if you edit this chapter, I'll see if you can do it or not, and if you're good at it, we'll get you to do it. So I did that, and then he offered me editing work as well. So I ended up editing the other stories in that book alongside my prequel to Rose, and I've been editing all of the Doctor Who stuff for Puffin ever since, which is quite fun.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, and then I ended up doing the quiz book, the official quiz book. And we've just had the sequels book published. So we did a prequels book and a sequels book, and I had a story in that as well. So that's kind of how it feels like a lot of luck and a lot of flukes, to be honest.
Yeah, but you built all of your talent and working hard on your craft, and that was all in the building blocks of when you were starting out and you were writing, you were blogging. So it feels like a lot of luck, but really you put in the work and you grafted.
Yeah.
So
it's hard. It's
very
interesting, isn't it? Because like people don't really see that. People just kind of see, you know, something you put out in Doctor Who magazine or like a book that you've done. And people don't see all of the rejection that you've gone through to get there, or like, God, I've been so depressed from rejection in these last few years, but also like you have to do it. You just, because there's no,
you have to take the nose.
You have to be able to come back and bounce back and re-pitch again, and you know, but nobody sees that ever, which is it's really an interesting thing, because I think no one understands how much hard work you put into something, like, and how much burnout you can experience as a freelancer as well. But a lot of it is rejection. A lot of it is just having to get used to being like, oh well, that person said no, so I've got to pitch this again, or to, you know, to do 5 articles for the Radio Times or whatever, and then someone else might notice you, and all of that, you know. And I see that with you as well, the stuff you're doing. Like, I've seen how much work you put into fandom stuff over the last few years, and I'm like, that will pay off for you, because you are working hard, you know.
Yeah, it takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of energy, and a lot of work to try and build a platform and write things and get noticed and meet the right people. But hopefully it will pay off, and it absolutely paid off for you, and you're thriving, it seems. I mean, I was just writing a few notes before we jumped on call, and writing the dates, you were booked and busy for 2025. Everything that was being released, it was really great to see.
I'm still like, that might never happen again. Like, this is the fear as a freelancer though, because I had so many things released last year that I was like, well, everyone's going to be sick of me, first of all, I'm really sorry.
No, also, absolutely not.
I don't know if that's ever going to happen again, like that sheer amount of stuff that I did. And probably for the best, because I think I broke at some point last year, but but you can't say no, can you? I can't say no to things that I've been offered, like, ever.
Yeah. So now you are writing audiobooks. You've got your debut Big Finish work coming out, which is very exciting. That'll be at the end of March. Very excited. Have you had any kind of women influences from Doctor Who have kind of inspired your work, or maybe written something that you're like, oh, I really like the structure of that, I really like the writing style of that? Anything like that?
So, God, that's such a good question. I think that there weren't a huge amount of female authors growing up, but like my particular Doctor Who niche are the Doctor Who books. So I lived and breathed them. You know, some people have character options, some people have Big Finish. Mine are the books.
I had all the books as well.
Like that was my specific, very specific Doctor Who niche. And so people like Jacqueline Rayner and Una McCormack in particular, and Jenny Colgan, be writing Doctor Who stuff. That, you know, I think sometimes you can just tell that a woman has written something.
Absolutely. It's a completely different voice.
Yeah.
It's really unique. Yeah, absolutely.
And that doesn't mean that I didn't look up to all of the male writers as well, because I absolutely did. But there's something about, for me, like Jenny Colgan being like a romance author mostly, and doing a lot of really cool commercial rom-com kind of books, but also doing Doctor Who. That to me is so inspirational, because it's like you can be like a feminine woman who likes girly stuff, but also you can write good Doctor Who. I think there's a real kind of little bit of a prejudice that I see sometimes, where it's like you can be a woman in Doctor Who, but only if you're like a bloke. Only if you're like a bit androgynous or a bit blokey, or you don't wear makeup. And you know, we've spoken about this before, but I think sometimes being a really feminine woman can be confusing for people. And so to be able to see women like Jenny Colgan doing what she was doing is very inspirational. And also, I guess, as I was coming up as a writer, you know, Sarah Dollard writing Doctor Who.
Yeah.
All of the women from Jodie's era, like Joy Wilkinson, Maxine Alderton, all of those types of people being involved as writers. You know, that's really the thing that makes me go like, oh, okay, well, I can do this. I can do this if I really try. There is kind of that space. You know, when we were growing up, there were female Doctor Who writers during New Who 1, but like there's New Who 1, I meant RTD 1. in growing up, but like really not that many. And I think
you can kind of count on two hands how many female writers there were compared to male writers.
And I think there were like 9 or 10 male writers before Helen Rayner even got to do Dialects in Manhattan as well. You know, it's quite a lot. And sometimes I was watching The Haunting of Villa Diodati the other day, and you could just tell that a woman wrote it, but it doesn't make it any less good, you know.
No, absolutely.
And it doesn't feel different. It feels like an episode of Doctor Who, but with a great understanding of women and the female perspective. And I think that type of thing really makes me want to continue, despite some of the harder stuff sometimes, because you know, it is that, you know, there are women that have done it and have done it well, and so it's been really inspiring during, and you know, Kate Herron and Bryony Redman as well, and Juno Dawson. Like, I love Rogue, I love the Interstellar Song Contest so much. So seeing that, you know, in the recent years is it's just like, well, why not? Why couldn't I do that as well, you know?
Absolutely. There's nothing stopping you.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Well. Do you think there are any female stories that you think haven't been done in Doctor Who, or any female stories that you would do for the Whoniverse?
That's a really good question, because I think there are like stories about women, but there are also like stories that aren't about women, but like women could tell in a certain way, you know? God, that's a really good question. I think that for me, something I really enjoyed about the last series of Doctor Who was watching Story in the Engine and being like, nothing like that has ever been done before, and there's been no writer like Inua Ellams ever in Doctor Who. So for me, like, you know, things I'd want to see from women and women writers would be like, you know, like I said earlier, a Doctor Who story set in a nail salon, or it's so hard to explain. I'm trying to think of specific. Like, I'd love to see more women from history in, you know, like hidden stories that we like maybe haven't seen a lot of. But it doesn't necessarily have to be like a woman thing either. Do you know what I mean?
No, it doesn't have to be like a kind of push it in your face, this is a woman's story.
Because the last trap you want to fall into is like, we're gonna get a woman to do the woman's story.
you don't want to make it seem like it's box ticking,
exactly,
or that kind of artificial representation. You want it to be organic and natural and something that everyone can relate to.
But also, like, I would love to do, like, because I have endometriosis, which is a women's disease. Like, God, I would love an episode of Doctor Who about endometriosis. Like, make it aliens, but only a woman could write that, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
Things like that, where there are things only women could write that have just definitely never been done. And it would be so cool to see more of that, I think.
Absolutely. When you've been writing your stories, has there ever been a female character that has kind of taught you something, maybe even about yourself, or inspired you to do something that you never thought would come out of that story?
From writing my stories?
From writing your stories,
Such a good question.
I came prepared today.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't expect anything otherwise, but I'm like, how do I give a good answer to this? So I'm trying to think what I've maybe recently written. I think maybe there have been some instances where I've written a companion or a female character, and I sort of, you know, I think there's like a lot of feedback processes and editing processes when you work for an IP like Doctor Who. And it means that things can get rewritten or cut because it's a brand and it has to be a certain way, and it's like, you know, totally fair and totally get it. I think sometimes I wish to be like a bit braver, like the women that I write, maybe, or to maybe push back and be a bit like more confident in my abilities and stuff. Like that's something I wish to be more like the women that I've written. I'm trying to think of a specific example of something that's made me change.
It doesn't have to be in big ways, but just kind of, I know I've written some characters where I've put them in certain situations, or they've been in certain situations, and I've been like, actually, I could learn something by how you've reacted, how you responded, the strengths that you've got to get through this and come out on the other side.
Yeah.
And I've definitely kind of taken characters that I've written and kind of put that into my personality and my being so that I can feel like a more empowered woman. So I just didn't know if that definitely kind of happens with you too.
Yeah, definitely when writing companions, because you kind of, I think it's hard also not to put yourself into companions and like their reactions to things, because we are the Doctor's companions as the audience.
100%. Ever since I was a child, I've always said, like, I used to play Doctor Who on the playground, everything like that. And I've always said, if I was ever to play a role in Doctor Who and, you know, thinking big and brave, I would love to be a companion. I've, like, when my dad or my family are like, oh, you could, you know, when I started acting and stuff, they're like, you could play the Doctor one day. Although now we've had I mean, this was my response before we've had Jodie, and I didn't really think it was possible, but I would always be like, no, I'd want to be a companion. I think they're just as interesting, just as complex, have so many there's so much juice and depth in the characters of a companion. I'd be very happy and very fulfilled if I was to ever be a companion. So writing for them, it feels exactly the same.
I actually find it really difficult to write from the Doctor's perspective, because I was trying to do this on a project recently where I was like, because I always write from the companion's perspective. I tried to write from the Doctor's, and I was like, aside from like the general feeling of the Doctor being like a neurodivergent outsider, which I definitely relate to, I found it quite hard. I found it really difficult, and I think it's so easy to put yourself in a companion's shoes, because that's our way into Doctor Who and the way of seeing the Doctor's world. And I definitely think sometimes when I'm writing female companions, I'm like, you know, like I was writing Clara, and you're like, well, Clara is confident, is brave, is not gonna take anyone's shit, you know. And I definitely, I think one thing that I think I try to do, like, I think in the last couple of years doing the jobs that I do as well, and I definitely see this when I'm writing characters, I'm like, all of these women would just say yes, like they would just they'd do it, they'd go with the Doctor, they'd do this adventure, they'd go headfirst into it. I think I've sort of tried to be like that a bit more in recent times, and be like, say yes to everything, or explore things, or like if you were living in the Doctor's world, like you were the way you're writing these companions, especially because I've done a couple of stories. The prequel story I did and the sequel story I did have new companions that I've made up myself. And I'm like, if I was that person, if I was meeting the Doctor, you would say yes, you'd go with them, or you'd go on the adventure, or you'd jump into it. Like, I don't want to be the person that says no to things or hides away, because that's not what a Doctor Who companion would do. And so I think that's definitely something I've been trying to kind of channel more of, especially since writing that a bit more.
Yeah. I think it's important as well, just to kind of piggyback off your point there. Although these companions say yes and they're fully, you know, into the adventure and running away with the Doctor, it's really nice to see, especially from modern companions, although they're saying yes and they love the Doctor, it's so that it could fulfill something in them. And it's on their own terms, and they're equal to the Doctor. They put just as much in as what he does, but also kind of seeing, like what we saw with Martha, when it didn't serve her anymore, and she found it within her to be strong enough to say, although I've had this amazing time and I love you, this isn't serving me anymore, and I now need to live my life the way that I need to. And I think that's extremely strong and something that everyone should take away from. So it's really nice to see those kind of visuals and representation on the screen, so that, or even when you're writing, just on paper, for you to take that away from you, as well as, yes, I want to say yes to everything and I want to live a life full of adventure, but only when it serves me and benefits me in my life.
And that means that, like, it's so, like, doing the job that I do, and every time I do a new project, I'm like, I might never do this again, but like, I'm glad I'm doing it now. You know, writing so many different companions is so great as like a adventure to go on, because writing Martha is so different from writing Clara, is so different from writing Susan, is so different from writing Nyssa. They're all like completely different women, but I take something from all of them.
Yeah.
You know, and that's what's so nice about Doctor Who and the its kind of history, is that there are so many different women we can take stuff from. Like you say, I want to be as confident as Martha, like choosing what's right for her. But I also want to be like as kind of like bossy and confident as Clara, or whatever it is, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the importance as well of having this kind of different and varied and diverse representation on your screen, so that you can take the pieces that you like the most and kind of form your identity off that. It's really important. Yeah. Is there anything that you'd like to talk about specifically off of your own back? Is there anything that you want to talk about, kind of manifest goals for the future or for 2026?
God, I mean, like, every Doctor Who thing that I get to do is like a miracle to me, and I want to, like, obviously I want to do it forever. I think every time I do something, I'm very aware, like, I might never get to do this again. You know, I've done 2 big finishes, I might never do one again, but like, I've done it, and it's been very fast paced, all of the stuff that I've done over the past couple of years, and I've learned a lot. So really what I want to manifest is just like to keep enjoying writing and getting to do writing, whatever that means for me, which I don't really know, because I have been so busy. I would love to do, you know, my own original stuff, but I'm always want to do more Doctor Who. I'd love to do more script writing. But, like, mostly I'm just like really grateful for everything that I've done and hope that I get to do it again. But I don't really know what I'm manifesting. What I'm manifesting is for Doctor Who to come back on our screens at Christmas, and to continue, and to have more incredible women. Like, whatever happens with the future of Doctor Who, I really hope there's some really cool female writers or producers, and that we get to see more of that and get to be a part of that. Yeah, it's just I just want more women.
Yeah. Well, you might be a part of that. Who knows?
God, that would
manifest it.
Imagine I would I'd just die. I'd be happy then. I'd pass away.
You'd have hit peak then.
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying?
It's funny, isn't it? Because like loads of people send me messages. Like I've had a ridiculous amount of people be like, you should be the showrunner or you should write an episode. So I don't know anything about writing for TV, so probably not. But
you didn't know how to write prose.
That's true.
And you took and you wrote it for the first time 3 weeks and it was published.
Yeah.
So I don't really think anything's stopping you, to be honest.
Yeah. Well, exactly. Who knows? Maybe one day I'll write a Doctor Who episode set in a hair salon or something.
Yeah. Why not? Okay. Well, I think that's a nice place to finish there, if you feel like that too.
I feel like I rambled on for ages, sorry.
No, you carry on. Is there anything that you'd like to plug? Is there where can they find you? What social medias, that kind of thing?
Yes. That's a very good question. You can find me at Oh My Stars on Instagram and X, although I don't really use X anymore. And the 11th Doctor Adventures will be launching this month at Big Finish, so please do go and listen to the first box set. That's very cool. And go and listen to the Who Watch podcast. We're watching every episode of Doctor Who from 1963 to present day. We're on a bit of a break at the moment, but we will return eventually. Do I have anything else to plug?
Is that just on YouTube or is it on Spotify,
Apple, anywhere you get your podcasts? I think that's everything. And go and buy Doctor Who books, please. It doesn't have to be the ones that I've done, but support Doctor Who books because nobody can make more if they're not being purchased, and we so want to make more. So go do some charity work. Go and buy a Doctor Who book if you're listening to this.
Well, it was absolutely lovely having you on for this special podcast, Beth.
Thank you for
and
having
I'm sure
me.
You'll be on many more in the future.
I hope so. I would love to be on chatting to you again.
Yeah, of course. Well, I'll see you later.
Goodbye.
Bye. And now to end, we have some special messages from some more brilliant women.
Hi, I'm Ellie Jolly, Doctor Who cosplayer and content creator, and the women of Who have changed my life. I grew up quite shy, believe it or not, and seeing those strong, headstrong, straight-talking, powerful women changing the world on my TV screen every Saturday evening really changed the way I saw myself. And I thought, if Martha Jones can walk across the world, and if perfectly normal Donna Noble can change the planet, why can't I? You know what I mean?
I was really lucky to grow up with some really fantastic role models with the RTD1 era, because I was born in 2002, and when I was 3 I really got into Doctor Who. So Rose was my hero growing up. She was blonde and working class like I was, and she proved to me from a very early age that the women are just as much heroes as men are. And it was just something, because of Rose, that I never really questioned.
She impacted me so much as a young girl, so much so it influenced my choice in school, in a Catholic school, of the confirmation name Rose after St. Rose. But really, obviously, that was because of Rose Tyler, so I do have Rose in my name. She was a young, strong, independent woman from a working class family, and her willingness to help others and her determination inspired me in many ways when I was younger, and I always wanted to be Rose Tyler. I always wanted to dress up as her. She was just very inspiring to me.
Rose Tyler was like my favourite companion growing up. Having like a character like Rose Tyler was like so relatable because, you know, like she's 19 years old, working in retail, like working class. And it's so important to have like just representation. And, you know, to quote, like, first 19 years of my life, nothing ever happened until she met the Doctor. And it sort of gave a lot of hope as well. And, like, just ordinary girls can do these incredible things and go to these amazing places.
I started watching Doctor Who when it came back with Christopher Eccleston. And one scene that stuck with me in the first episode was when Rose saved the day, which she and a lot of other companions did quite a lot during their time. I think personally the show and even the spin-offs are perfect at showing that women are so driven and capable of a lot of amazing things, and the show wouldn't be what it is without these women characters and the women in the fan base that love it.
Hi, this is Una McCormack recording a little message for International Women's Day, thinking about Doctor Who and what it means to be a woman fan of Doctor Who. So I've got to say that I started watching Doctor Who back in the 70s, and who's the most important figure there? Obviously, it's the wonderful Liz Sladen as Sarah Jane. And I think it was really important as a kid, a little girl watching that show, to have someone so brave and strong who knew her own mind and talked in terms of women's lib and was serious about it. It wasn't a joke. It was important and significant.
She was everything I wanted to be. I used to dress like her. I used to wear like this little waistcoat that I was convinced made me look like Sarah Jane. And I had my little Sonic lipstick, and I would sometimes just sit with my K9 and tell him about what I was going to do today. Because of Sarah Jane, I believe that I could do anything.
I'm forever inspired by characters like Sarah Jane Smith, River Song, a lot of River Song. River Song helped me discover my sexuality as a bisexual female.
She is one of my favourite characters, and my cat is even named after her. She is a fierce, feisty, independent woman who has been through so much, yet she keeps on going despite the hell she's put through and the torture of hers and the Doctor's timelines being like in opposite directions. She is very inspiring, and she's inspired me a lot.
My favourite female character in Doctor Who is River Song, as played by the brilliant Alex Kingston. I just love her. She's courageous. She gets brilliant action adventures, not just with the Doctor, but also on her own. She is witty, she's sharp, she's flirty, she's brave. And what's the quote? That she does everything that the Doctor does, only backwards and in high heels. So yeah, she's hands down my favourite female character in Doctor Who, or one of my favourite characters in Doctor Who as well. In fact, one of my favourite characters in TV and film of all time, I think.
And still am in love with the character of Clara Oswald. I first had the biggest crush on her, but also I saw her really as a role model when I was 13. She was smart and witty and especially could stand up for herself when the Doctor was being harsh, let's say. But me as an awkward teenager, I really loved seeing really a smart and strong woman in a position where I could be like, yes, I want to be like this. I would like to be like this, and I really love her for that.
Hello, I'm Kat. I share a name with the host of this podcast, and I'm one half of the 77 Years team. If I could pick one woman, it wouldn't be an actress. It would be Rachel Talalay, the director, famous for, of course, directing World Enough in Time, The Doctor Falls, Heaven Sent, brilliant, beautiful episodes of Doctor Who. And every episode she's worked on is a masterpiece visually. It's the way that I think Rachel interacts with the community, how accessible she makes things, and how dedicated to what she does she is. One of my favourite things about looking at the women particularly who work on Doctor Who is just seeing how much passion they have for what they do, and knowing that they have to be the best to get heard in the first place. And so it's something that I'm just reminded of again and again when I see any of her creations on Doctor Who or otherwise. Her love for the show, her love for its history, her love for the fans, and how open she is about the entire process and the choices that she makes.
I absolutely adore Donna Noble as well. She's another favourite of mine. She's just absolutely brilliant. And I think her journey is absolutely amazing as well. Like, this whole time she was thinking she's nothing special, but she is. And my favourite episode of mine is Turn Left, because it was like the whole episode obviously being led by Donna and Rose as well. And I think it was really important having those kind of episodes when it's like the female companion taking lead for the whole episode. But I think having strong female characters like Donna is just absolutely amazing, because I just love her personality and how she puts the Doctor in his place.
And then as we got into the 80s, well, what can I say about the wonderful Ace and the wonderful Sophie Aldred? It was incredible for me as a teenage girl to see the story of an adolescent girl, a girl growing from being, you know, a mouthy teenager to turning into a young adult. And you didn't really see that. You didn't really see female-focused stories in that way, girl-focused stories in that way. So a really important moment for me. So shout out to the wonderful Sophie Aldred, who is, of course, just incredible and an absolute gift to Doctor Who and our fandom.
I have a special connection to Bill Potts. She's one of the first casual queer portrayals in a non-queer medium, or rather a lesbian as a lead character. And especially her being a normal person in our day-to-day life. And it showed me, yes, normal queer people do exist. They're there. It's not a big deal. And it's really something that teenage me needed to see.
In terms of inspirations, female inspirations amongst the cast and crew of the Who world, I'm gonna say Helen Goldwyn from Big Finish. She's an actor, she's a writer, she's a director, and she's also a wife and a mother. And I think it's still really difficult for women to balance domesticity and careers. And it shouldn't be as hard as I think it still is, because I think we still bear the brunt of the responsibility for raising families. And Helen, she's had a brilliant resurgence in her career the last couple of years as a performer. She's starring in lead roles on the London stage. She's in Olivier Award-winning shows, and she's still directing for Big Finish and writing, and she's one of my favourite directors that I've ever worked with, male or female. She preps, she's focused, she understands the material before she gets into the recording studio, and she is just brilliant with the actors and the writers and the producers, and she does it all with such warmth and grace. So yeah, she is a huge inspiration to me.
Kate Stewart, my favourite character. She's such a brilliant role model, and I just loved, especially her earlier seasons as well, how she was just, strong, independent woman, single, when she walked up to the Cybermen, and she's like Kate Stewart, divorcee, mother of two, kindergarten son, and bridge player. We got a bit of a glimpse into her life, and I just love how she was just her. She was just independent. She was just Kate Stewart. I loved her. I think Gemma Redgrave done such a brilliant job as Kate Stewart, and I'm glad we got to finally see more of Kate. And yeah, she's such a great role model. I absolutely adore Shirley as well. I'm so glad they have female representation, disability representation as well, which is really important, and I'm so glad we finally have more of that.
I'd also like to mention the character Helen Sinclair from the 8th Doctor Adventures, and I love her with all my heart. So they took a repressed queer woman from the 60s and put her on the TARDIS team, and now she can explore the universe, but especially explore how society changes over time. And it's not necessarily a coming out story, but it's a very subtle in the background story of self-discovery. So it's not in your face, but when you take the time to look at it, it's a really nice reflection of how real people have a basically non-linear way of accepting themselves, and it really touched me. I love this character with all my heart. I am happy to see how her story will end in the future.
I love the 13th Doctor. She is hopeful, she's wise, she's wonderful, she's such a good character. She stepped into this multi-generational legacy of a role that had been built for men. And because of that, a lot of girls grew up dreaming of travelling with the Doctor and being picked up and being taken across the stars. But because of Jodie Whittaker, they can also dream to be the Doctor as well.
When I was a child, I'd run around the playground pretending to be the Doctor, and I'd always get told that I can only ever play the companion, as the Doctor is always a man. So Jodie being cast would have changed that whole viewpoint for the kids who, like me, would run around their school playground pretending to be the famous Time Lord. And now they can reply back that the Doctor is not always a man anymore.
Of course, I couldn't not mention the one and only Jodie Whittaker, who played the 13th Doctor. That casting back in 2017 meant the world to me, and it did kind of bring me back to the show after I kind of went away from it a little bit. I had always played the Doctor in the playground when I was younger, but I was acting like the 10th Doctor because obviously the Doctor couldn't be a woman, so I'd act like him to be him, if that makes sense. But being able to see the Doctor as a woman somewhat healed my inner child and made me so happy, because it just showed that Doctor Who was also meant for women and you could be the Doctor. It was such a huge moment for Women of Who, and yeah, she has a special place in my heart. I ended up crying when she appeared in the reality war. It was so wonderful.
Finally having a female Doctor as the lead, that's amazing, and I loved the dynamics between 13th Doctor and Yasmin. It's great finally having like queer female representation. It's what we need. Absolutely brilliant, and I think Chris Chibnall done such a brilliant job at writing female characters.
Of all the women from Doctor Who, the one who's inspired me the most has been Jodie Whittaker as the 13th Doctor. Her portrayal of the 13th Doctor really helped me to accept myself and to become a more truer version of myself. Jodie has the woman who's had the most impact in my life, because without her portrayal, I wouldn't be here right now.
As a Doctor Who writer, I really enjoy getting to tell historical female stories. So almost always, if I'm asked to write a story set in the past, I will find a female figure that maybe you haven't heard much about, or a female related tale that I think would benefit from having light shine on it. Like the first woman to win the Nobel Peace Prize, who was sort of a little bit responsible for bringing about the Nobel Peace Prize, Bertha von Suttner. So I put her in a Ninth Doctor story. I did a story for Audacity and Charlie with the Eighth Doctor, where they were joining in a women's strike. So that's my privilege as a writer of Doctor Who stories, is I get to tell moments of female history that maybe isn't told as much as it could be or should be. That's always great fun. I also loved being able to originate a female companion in Audacity, and to embody her with lots of characteristics that I think are really important for female role models, to make her independent, to make her kind, to make her understand the way the world is, and to see what she might be able to do in order to make it a little bit better. So that's a real privilege, to be able to create female role models, and also to be able to tell female stories through a Doctor Who lens.
It's just amazing how we have so many amazing female in the Whoniverse, and I hope it continues, and I hope we do get another female Doctor. I'm quite excited to what happens to the next Doctor. Like, you know, it's Billie Piper, but is it going to be who knows? Is it going to be Rose Tyler or Bad Wolf, or how long is it going to be for? But it's great to have female leads. It's brilliant.
I'm forever inspired by the way Doctor Who is written, within the fact that the Doctor is this alien, and he's almost like this omnipotent being that has almost full control over the laws of time are his. But he doesn't have control over the women he keeps as company. They will shout at him, they will put him in line, they will not stand for nothing. And I really took that on board in my upbringing. I just love to see a woman that can stick up for herself, and that is the Women of Who, and that is everything I believe in as an adult now and continue to implement within my life.
I think it's so important that we have female representation, good female representation. Actually, let's be clear, on Doctor Who and everywhere in the media and in life, because it still feels a little bit of a struggle. It still feels like women are in the minority when in fact, we are 50% of the population, and I include trans women in this. It's just so important that young viewers see women achieving and being role models and being strong and confident and vulnerable, but see us and hear us, and understand that we are every bit as complex and difficult and brave as the male characters that they see on television. We're human beings, essentially. We're all human beings, essentially, regardless of gender. So representation, as much varied representation of everybody, I think is absolutely crucial.
All the women involved in this show are remarkable, on screen, behind the scenes and in the fan base, and they all deserve to be celebrated. So happy International Women's Day, everyone.
I think what Women of Who really means to me is that spirit of determination, that spirit of absolute joy and passion and just love for the craft, really, because women traditionally have kept fandom spaces alive. Women who wrote fan fiction, who pioneered zines, who engaged with this community, who made this community, maintained it, who are the historians, the documenters, the creatives, and they can almost be invisible. Whereas, you think of the wilderness years, you think of names like Paul Cornell, Russell T Davies, Robert Shearman, and these are all brilliant writers, but what you don't see is almost, again, this invisible joy and this invisible dedication of women who are so good at what they do, so determined. And you see it today. You go to any con, you see a cosplay and you think how much skill and time and effort went into that. You see a piece of fiction that someone's written, a piece of fan fiction. You see how many hours went into it. You see an audiobook and you think just the sheer amount of time and energy that has taken you. When you meet other women in the fandom, you know that they will have strived against this weird culture of non-acceptance from the men around them. And it makes me so happy to see women succeed, women be determined and nerdy and true to themselves despite not being seen. I hope everyone has a phenomenal International Women's Day. Give a big prezzy to the women in your life and make it really expensive. I'm joking. Buy a big pint for a woman that you know. That's my thoughts. Mwah.
I've written a lot of Doctor Who books and audios and all sorts of things over the years. It's been a lonely thing sometimes. I think when you start out and sometimes you feel like you're the only woman in the room, and that can be a bit unnerving and a bit odd. But it's so much different now. It's just so much better now. There's so much diversity. There's so much liveliness of ideas and contributions. So much more space for voices and for people to get their say. And representation like this, I think, is so important, not because we're ticking boxes or we feel like we ought to do it, but because it's truthful, because the world is diverse and different. And to be able to see yourself, like I saw myself in Ace as a kid, is so validating. To be able to see that your experience is worth telling a story about, that's just an incredible gift. But at the same time, it lets us see how other people live. The more ideas and types of people that we're exposed to, the more we understand the world in all its difference and diversity and multiplicity. And I think that's a really great and important thing. So it's been an amazing experience being part of the Doctor Who family over all these years, to see all these things change and to feel like, we can all be there. Our stories all matter. So, happy International Women's Day. Well done, Doctor Who. Let's have more of that, please.
Thank you for listening to this special episode of the Says Who podcast. If you've enjoyed, then please give us a like, share, comment, subscribe, all of the good stuff. It really helps us out. A big thank you to everyone who sent those lovely messages, and of course a big thank you to the lovely Beth Axford for joining me this week. All of her links are in the description, and don't forget to pre-order the 11th Doctor Adventures box set. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at simplykatie_XO, and you can follow the pod at @TheSaysWhoPod on Twitter and Instagram for updates about what we're up to. Come and join us next week when, unfortunately, Tip will be back, but we'll have a lot more Doctor Who stuff to talk about. And if you can't wait till then, you can come and join us over on the Patreon, where we have lots of bonus content, including bonus podcasts, commentary tracks, and more. But until next time, thank you for listening, and happy International Women's Day. Bye!